My name is Emily Calloway. I am 32 years old. For 7 months, I had been getting sicker, weaker, dizzier. My husband said I was stressed. My mother-in-law said I overthought everything. Then my doctor looked at my test results. His face changed completely. He put down the file, looked at me, and asked one question: "Who prepares your meals at home?" Before I could answer, he said 4 words that stopped my heart. "Please, don't call anyone." Before I tell you what he found, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and tell me your country in the comments. Now, let's begin. I had been feeling wrong for 7 months. Not dramatically wrong, not the kind of wrong that announces itself clearly, just quietly, persistently wrong. Weakness that arrived without explanation and stayed without apology. Dizziness that came in waves, sometimes mild, sometimes severe enough that I had to sit down immediately wherever I was. Stomach pain that my doctor had attributed across 3 separate appointments to stress, anxiety, lifestyle. The particular diagnosis that means we cannot find what is causing this, so we are going to suggest it is coming from you. I had accepted this because what else do you do when the people around you, the people who are supposed to know, tell you that nothing is wrong? You start to believe them, or you try to. My husband, Ryan, and I had been married for 4 years. He was the kind of man who was good at the large things, grand gestures, significant anniversaries remembered, the particular romance of someone who understood that love needed to be demonstrated publicly and clearly. What he was less practiced at was the small things, the daily texture of paying attention, the particular skill of noticing without being shown when something was not right. When I told him about the dizziness, he handed me a glass of water. When I told him about the weakness, he suggested I was working too hard. When I told him for the 6th time that something felt genuinely wrong, he looked at me with the particular expression of someone who has heard something so many times that they have stopped actually hearing it. "Emily," he said, "you stress about everything. You always have. It's in your head." I looked at him, and for the first time felt something shift in the way I understood my marriage. His mother, Patricia, had moved in with us 8 months earlier. Temporarily, Ryan had said, while her apartment was being renovated. The renovation had been completed 6 weeks ago. Patricia was still with us. She managed the household in the particular way of someone who had decided, without announcing it, that the household was hers to manage. She cooked most evenings. She organized the kitchen the way she preferred it. She made coffee every morning, bringing mine to me in the bedroom before I was fully awake. The particular gesture of someone performing care that I had accepted gratefully, without once questioning. Patricia had never been warm to me, not coldly, not obviously, just precisely in the way I had learned to recognize from women who had decided I was not what they wanted for their son, but had also decided that saying so directly would cost them more than performing acceptance. She smiled at the right moments, said the right things at family gatherings, referred to me as her daughter-in-law with a particular emphasis that made the phrase sound like a category rather than a relationship. I had managed her the way I managed most complicated things in my life, by being careful, by giving her no ammunition, by being in every visible way the person she could not reasonably object to. It had not made her warm, but it had kept the peace, or what I believed was peace. The appointment was on a Thursday morning, my 4th visit to Dr. Harmon in 3 months. This time, at his suggestion, he had ordered a full panel of tests: blood work, urinalysis, metabolic panel, the kind of comprehensive testing that happens when a doctor has run out of simpler explanations. I had given the samples 2 weeks earlier. Today was the results appointment. I sat across from Dr. Harmon in his office. He was looking at the file on his desk. He had been looking at it for longer than felt normal. I watched his face. Something was happening in it. Not the practiced neutrality of a doctor delivering routine results. Something else. The particular expression of someone who has found something they did not expect and is deciding very carefully what to do next. He set the file down, looked at me. "Emily, how long have you been experiencing these symptoms?" 7 months, I said. 7 months consistently? Yes, getting worse over time. He nodded slowly, looked at the file again, then looked at me with an expression I had never seen on a doctor's face before. "Who prepares your meals at home?" I looked at him. The question landed strangely. "My mother-in-law mostly," I said. "She's been staying with us." "Does she prepare your coffee as well?" "Yes, she brings it to me every morning." Dr. Harmon was quiet for a moment. He closed the file, set his pen down, and said 4 words, quietly, carefully. "Please don't call anyone." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I need you to stay in this office," he said, "for a few minutes." "Is something wrong with my results?" He stood up. "I'll be right back." He left the office. I sat there, in the particular suspended time of a person who has just understood, without being told, that something enormous is about to happen. My phone was in my bag. I reached for it, then stopped. "Please don't call anyone." I left it in my bag. 5 minutes passed. Dr. Harmon came back. He was not alone. A woman in a plain blazer entered behind him. She introduced herself as Detective Reyes. She sat down across from me and asked me 3 questions. The test results had something Dr. Harmon had not been looking for. A pattern in my blood work. The presence of a substance that did not belong there. Not a medication I had been prescribed. Not something that could be explained by diet or environment. Something that had to be introduced deliberately, repeatedly, over an extended period of time. Dr. Harmon explained it carefully. The substance, in the quantities present in my system, would not kill quickly. It would simply, over time, make a person weaker, sicker, less stable, less reliable, less credible. The particular profile of someone whose health was failing mysteriously and couldn't explain why. I sat there listening and felt the 7 months rearrange themselves in my understanding. The weakness, the dizziness, the stomach pain, the appointments where nothing was found. Ryan saying, "It's in your head." It was not in my head. It was in my coffee. Detective Reyes asked me not to return home, not to contact Ryan, not to contact Patricia. She explained that doing so could compromise the investigation and could, depending on what they found, put me at risk. I sat with that word, risk, in my own home, from the woman who brought me coffee every morning. The investigation moved quickly. A warrant was executed that afternoon. I stayed at Detective Reyes's recommendation at a hotel with my colleague Dana, who came without questions and sat beside me while I tried to understand what I was living inside. Detective Reyes called at 9 p.m. They had found evidence in the kitchen, specifically in the cabinet above the coffee station, behind a row of cooking spices Patricia had reorganized 2 weeks after moving in. The substance, along with a small notebook with dates and dosages, written in Patricia's handwriting. 7 months of careful, deliberate, documented administration. The particular record of someone who had been doing this with intention and keeping track. I asked Detective Reyes one question. Why? She told me what the investigation had uncovered. My father had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving an inheritance, significant, property and accounts held in my name. Under the terms of his estate, if I were to be declared mentally or physically incompetent, the management of those assets would transfer to my spouse. Patricia had known this. She had done the research. She had formulated the plan. She had moved into our home under the pretext of a renovation and had spent 7 months making me, quietly, carefully, systematically, into someone who could be declared unfit. Ryan, when interviewed, did not know. The investigators were thorough on this point. His consistent dismissal of my symptoms had been genuine dismissal, the particular blindness of a son who trusted his mother completely and had been used by that trust. He did not know, which was the most complicated thing to hold, because it did not make what happened acceptable, but it changed what it meant. Patricia was arrested on a Friday evening. I was not at the house when it happened. Detective Reyes had offered to let me be present. I had thought about it for a long time, then declined, because I had spent 7 months being made small in ways I didn't understand, and I did not want the image of that arrest to be the thing I carried. I wanted to carry something else. Ryan called me from the house. His voice, the particular voice of a man who has just had the foundation of something enormous removed without warning and is standing in the space where it used to be. "Ilara," he said, then corrected himself. "Emily." "I know," I said. "I don't—" He stopped. "I don't know what to say." "I know," I said again. "She told me you were getting worse," he said. "Every week she told me you were getting worse, and I believed her." "I know," I said. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know." We were quiet for a long time. "What do we do now?" he asked. I thought about it honestly. "I don't know yet," I said. "I need time." "Okay," he said. "Take it." Patricia pled guilty 8 months later to charges that included deliberate poisoning and financial fraud conspiracy. The sentence, 6 years. The inheritance remained entirely mine, protected, intact, exactly as my father had intended. Ryan and I did not immediately reconcile. That would have been too simple. And nothing about this was simple. We went to counseling, separately first, then together. Long, honest conversations about what he had missed, about what I had needed, about what trust looked like after something like this, and whether it could be rebuilt, or whether it had to be built entirely new. It is still being built, carefully, some days more easily than others, but being built, which is more than I expected when I sat in that hotel room on a Thursday night, trying to understand what my life had become. I think about Dr. Harmon sometimes, the file on his desk, his face changing. 4 words: "Please don't call anyone." The particular instinct of someone who understood, before I did, that the danger was closest to home. He has since told me, in a follow-up appointment, that the pattern in my blood work was something he had seen once before, in a textbook, during his residency. He had almost missed it. "Almost," I said. "Almost," he agreed. That word carries a weight I think about regularly. Almost. How close everything came to continuing, to worsening, to the outcome Patricia had been building toward. Almost. And then a doctor who looked carefully and asked one question that changed everything. Who prepares your meals at home? I am healthy now, fully. The substance cleared my system within weeks of stopping exposure. My strength came back. The dizziness stopped. The stomach pain disappeared. The particular sensation of feeling wrong that I had carried for 7 months lifted, and in its place, something I had not felt in longer than I realized, my own body, working the way it was supposed to, belonging to me, completely. I make my own coffee now, every morning, the particular ritual of someone who has learned, at considerable cost, what it means to be in control of the small things. I make it strong, the way I have always liked it, and I drink it slowly, at my own kitchen table, in a house that is, finally, entirely mine. If this story gave you strength today, like and subscribe. New story every week. Comment your country below. Share with someone who needs to hear this.